Everybody, happy Wednesday. Jim and Sean with you here. And, when you care about the very best and knowing what's going on in soccer, you bring Sean Miller in. So there you go. Sean,
Right.
thoughts of, let's talk about Euro for 2024. Is it going as planned, you think?
I mean, not really. I mean, if you're England, you got to love it. I mean, even though they've been awful, they're on the easy side of the bracket. I mean, the one side of the bracket right now has Germany, Spain, Portugal, and France. So only one of those teams is going to get to possibly get to a final. The other side of the bracket is the bums, as it's looking like. One of these teams, Italy, England, is going to kind of fraud their way to the final. And if you get to a final, you got a chance to win it. So, um, it's just, um, there's been some moments. The first round, I thought was pretty good. Obviously yesterday the Austria Netherlands game was crazy, but
Hmm.
I think as a neutral, if you're watching, you're like it kind of started out, and it's like the group stages like fizzled out a little bit.
Hmm.
All the nil-nils yesterday, and cagey affairs, people trying to make sure they get through, and then we'll look. It'll change on the weekend, but I've been a little disappointed, to be honest. And the Copa America, look, I mean, it's you know, there's not. I don't think there's one decent team in the tournament, to be honest. I mean, Argentina is obviously the world champions, but Messi's hurt. I'm not sold on them. They've been, they needed last minute goals, late goals, to kind of squeak through. USA won 2-0, but didn't, they should be beating that team 5-0. If they want to be serious contenders here. I thought Brazil got robbed a little bit, to be honest. They should have had a couple penalties, but they can't score. They got too many players up top that are the same kind of mold, and you know, Uruguay has a chance, but Darwin Nunez stinks. He's not, that guy. They could win despite him. I mean, he'll score 1 out of 50 chances. Um, but it's the silver lining is that Manchester United plays in 21 days or something like that. So they play basically the same day of the final. The both finals are the 14th, July 14th. Copa America and is at 3, and our Copa America is at 8, and the Euros at 3, and then the next day Manchester United has a friendly. So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, look, it's been it's tough to complain about wall to wall games. Uh, Basically starting at
Yeah.
9 a.m. and now obviously there's no more 9 a.m. games. But the other thing too is it's almost like the NCAA tournament where you're hyped for it, but by the time the first 4 days is over, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 75% of the games are already done. Like you only have the
Right.
Thursday night, the Friday night, the one games, the 2 games Saturday. So starting Saturday, today's the last day of the group stage. Starting Saturday, there's 2 games for 4 days, and then there's 2 games for 2 days, and then there's one game for 2 days, and then there's one game, and that's it. So we're getting into the home stretch here.
Yep. Um, have you been, your thoughts on what's going on with the U.S. team?
I mean, they're just not that good, are they? You know, I mean, they could make a quarter. They'll make the quarterfinals. They're not winning their group. Uruguay's better than them. If Uruguay, I would like to see how Uruguay does tomorrow. If Uruguay goes out and smashes Bolivia 5-0 or something like that, I just think it's going to be pretty easy to figure out that they're probably going to win that group. Obviously USA, 2-0 in that game. They just don't have, um, they don't have enough depth. I think, they don't have that number 9. And no one really does. I mean, if you're watching these games, I mean, the teams have struggled in that position. But I just think, watching the U.S. struggle in front of that, I mean, if that guy Pepe was as half decent, he would have had 3 goals in that game. I mean, they can't finish. Pulisic had a nice goal. There's been a lot of these goals from outside the box, but I just, they're just not good enough, to be honest. They need to kind of find better players in the next 2 years if they're going to do anything in that World Cup. People are saying they're going to make a run of the World Cup. There's no chance. They can't. If they make a quarterfinal, they'll make the round of 16, maybe. Maybe they'll luck away into the quarterfinals, but they can't go deep. I mean, they're not as good as Spain, and Spain needs a striker, and France, who's looked terrible but would still pummel the U.S., and England, who's being held back by a terrible. England and France are both being held back by awful managers, the same as U.S. I was over, we're at a wrestling camp here. I was across the street at the Trivos Pizza, and the guy's old school Italian, and he's just like, yeah, it's just not the same. The level of play just isn't the same as it was. And 10, 15, 20, 30, whatever you want to go back. And it's just, when you're watching it, Brazil Ronaldinho came out and bashed this Brazilian team, and I think the Americans have, the American fans kind of have this like over kind of
higher expectation than
they're overconfident. Like, they're not that good. Like once I come at it from a like I don't really care, like France. I mean, whatever. I'm watching Manchester. Yeah. So it's good to watch, but like I just don't really care. Like I'm a Manchester United fan. I don't really care about this stuff. At the end of the day, I want to win my bets, and I want to I'd like to see the players I like do well, but I just couldn't care less. I mean, about this stuff. I'll watch it because it's on. I'm just waiting for Manchester United to start. So
yeah, I think that we're the two of us are old enough and been following this sport long enough to. I'm honestly tired of hearing, in 5 more years the U.S. is going to be good. In 10 more years, the U.S. is going to be good. Just wait till this happens or wait till that happens. Look, the United States national team, the men's team, and the women's team to a degree, but more the men's team, have been given everything. I mean, they have some of the top training facilities. It's not like the money hasn't been spent to develop a team. It's just they haven't developed a team.
The problem is that
I mean, tired of excuses, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to. I mean, there's a lot of different things, socioeconomic. Like, why are these countries so good, and why are these players developing from France, and basically France, that probably 80% of the team is from the suburbs of Paris, and they're people from maybe West Africa, North Africa, a lot of those players could play for different countries, Senegal, whatever. So there's a lot of that goes into it. These people, if they weren't making millions of dollars playing soccer, or millions of euros, or millions of pounds, their families probably would be struggling. And people will talk about that. I mean, Anthony, the player from Manchester United, has talked about that all the time. Alexis Sanchez, there's a great story about him from Chile. Listen, if I didn't make it, I would be digging ditches in Chile for 12 hours a day to 7 days a week to support my family, to put food on the table. That, like, I had no other choice but to make it. I think that kind of goes into it a lot of times. I've written about this. The U.S. this pay to play system. I mean, to be at these top level clubs, you got to have somebody either backing you or have money. And those kids, if they don't, there's no, like, the alternative is, oh wow, I go to college, or I live a great life, and my parents have, you live a middle class, whatever it is. Like, if you don't make it, there's not, something that's going, you'll still live a kind of a happy life, whatever. I don't want to say happy, like a whatever kind of life. Like you'll still be able to make money and all this stuff. So until they figure this stuff out with the U.S., they're never going to do anything. To be honest, I mean, because the best players aren't playing.
Excuse me. The thing too is, we could say the same thing about Major League Baseball, because you've got kids
100%.
who are being
Dominican Republic.
signed from Nicaragua and throughout the Caribbean, and if they're signing them at, they are allowed to sign them at 15 and 16 to go to the camps where they play, and they then only one Soto. I mean, he's an example of that. He was signed by the National League. He was 16 years old, and developed that way. Perhaps the way to go would be to make deals with some of these countries to take some of the kids and bring them up into either the U.S. national team, or you know bring them in some way where they could make some money playing in the MLS until they got good, and then you could sell them off you know to Europe.
He wants this. They want this. The players to be playing in Europe, which they are, for the most part. Um, I think still, you don't really have any kind of superstars. Pulisic isn't a star. Like, he scores goals. He's a good player for him. He's AC Milan. I think 18 goals and 10 assists. Like, he had a good season. He's a solid player.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not developing Mbappe. Where's Mbappe? Where's um, Phil Foden? Where's Jude Bellingham? Where are these guys? Like, where are these players? England develops them all over. The fact that Gareth Southgate can't get anything out of them, that's a different story, because there's a ton of talent on that team. Look at the French team. The French team is just constantly churning players. These guys are going to get old, and the fact that Deschamps still sticks with the old players, even though there's players like Camavinga who's winning 10 trophies already by the time he's 21 with Real Madrid and stuff like this, and doesn't trust them, and that's once again on the manager. But Spain, Pedri, and Lamine Yamal, where are these players? These countries are like 1/5 the size of America. Where are these players? They're not coming through. Maybe the kid Sullivan, who's playing with the Union, he might be the guy. If he's already signed with City, and he's 14 years old or 15, whatever age he is now. I think he turns 15 soon. He might be that guy. But they're just not developing these stars, and it's like it's like any other, really. It's like any other sport. I mean, you can't win without these guys that can take the match over. I mean, you can't, you could have, 10 or 11 workman-like players and decent players, but I mean, just look at the last 5 or 6 teams to win a World Cup, or Messi, Mbappe, 14. That German team was built on the back of the embarrassment in 2000 when they got knocked out of the Euros, and they ripped the whole thing down to the bottom and started over ahead of the 2006 World Cup, which they were hosting. And then by 2014, that whole group of players won. They beat Argentina in the final. Argentina really should have won that if they had anybody that could finish, but once again, they didn't. 2010, that Spain team, it was all, Iniesta's. I mean, they're just ridiculous. 2006, the Italian team built on defense. Zidane obviously was getting old. I mean, you need these players. You need superstars. It's the same as basketball. It's the same as, you're not winning in basketball unless you have these, the stars. You got no chance. You can, like the Mavs got to the finals this year, and they have stars obviously, but and people are saying, oh, it's the team of the Celtics, but come on, Jaylen Brown and the other guy, like, I mean, they're superstars. Like these, come on, like baseball now. I mean, the teams that are at the top of the divisions are, the teams that are going to go to the World Series are the favored. The Dodgers have a whole lineup of superstars. The Yankees, whole lineup of superstars that are trying to trade for Vladdy. The Phillies have Phillies are trading for. I mean, it's all about having these star guys, and this sport is no different. The U.S. is not going to do anything until they get that person that is going to be able to lead them to the next level.
All right, but here's my theory of the case. Okay, I think our Mbappe and our superstars are playing basketball and playing, in playing wide receiver and defensive back in college because they look at basketball, football, and in some cases baseball before they even begin to think about soccer.
Yeah, the MLS doesn't pay enough. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, yeah, look, Messi's making money, and these guys they bring in, the stars are making money. Stars, I say.
Right.
But these other guys aren't. These guys. I mean, Manchester United players are making more in a week than probably 50% of the MLS players are making in the whole season. I mean, it's
right.
Or you gotta look. It's there's more money in America. Everybody comes here because there's money. I mean, they want to move Premier League games here. They want to do all this stuff, but they don't want to
Oh,
pay the players.
they wanted to have the Euro. They wanted to host the Champions League
Yeah, of course.
series.
Look, they want to have Wrexham and Birmingham City want to play here. I mean, everybody knows why, because you're going to go play in front of 80,000 people and at MetLife last night, and you're going to sell your tickets for $650 because everybody wants to see Messi. But what about the game that was the 6 o'clock game that was Canada and Peru, in a half empty stadium, 90-degree temperature? It's still the Copa America. Like, I mean, the last time it was here, the Centenary in 2016, we went to games in Philly and the tickets were $15. Like, it can't just, but here it's just about the superstars. Like, I don't think they do a good enough job marketing, the other stuff. Everybody talks about, in the this MLS. I mean, all anybody wants to talk about is Miami. Like, look, I get it, but like, come on. There's other 30 other teams. And it's when these players come over here, and there's a good, I was listening to somebody talk the other day. Look, these players don't, they don't want to go to Kansas City or like, I know Pittsburgh wants a team, and like these other
Columbus.
Come on, like Miami, New York, Los Angeles. I guess maybe I mean, they don't even want to go to Texas. Like, what else is there? So, those teams have to do it a little bit differently. But I mean, you can get it. Look, I mean, look at the Premier League. Manchester is not it's not a glory. It's not Barcelona. It's not Rome. It's not some of these other places. I think it used to, you think of Paris and you think of these, it's not like that. And, these places aren't really like that anymore. It's not kind of it's like a shell of what they used to be. But, Manchester's not really a place. Newcastle is, basically in Scotland. But they've turned into places where people go because they pay, they pay. Hey, if I'm paying you £400,000 a week to come play here, even though I'm only reporting 100,000, right? Manchester City,
right?
People are gonna come. That's how no one wanted to come play for Manchester. The whole reason they're in trouble is Manchester
Hmm.
City was a nothing. Nobody wants to play there. They're in division league. They're in league, the championship. They're in League One. When Manchester United's winning all these things, they're a division down. You know, you don't want to come there, but if you pay them crazy money, they'll come. So, for the MLS, if you start paying if you start paying better, these guys will come play here from Europe. I mean, they'll come. They would love America. The weather. Think about you go to Texas or some of these places. Salt Lake or whatever. I mean, there's good weather and there's good food
Hmm.
and people will leave you alone and you can
Yeah.
live in a mansion and you can do other stuff. But I mean, until everybody's making decent money, they're gonna choose to play in League One or the La Liga or Serie A or whatever.
Well, I think that I'm going back to the NASL in the late '70s, early '80s, right? The Pele Canalia, group, and back in those days, the Rowdies in Tampa, uh, they had a ton of. They kind of recruited the characters from the English Premier League, and it was, it was one of those things where. Um, there was a really good connection with the crowd and the team and everything was there. The pay was good, and the quality of the soccer was good. The problem was they made the fatal mistake of expanding way too fast and to cities that like Memphis and places like that, where you knew the moment they made, the announcement, it's like, do we want to get on a plane and go to Memphis and play soccer? I mean, it's crazy. These people don't know, hell, they barely know what, you know, football is, let alone soccer, this is not the way to go. And they basically shot themselves in the foot and ruined it. Had they kept to their plan, I think we could have had a soccer league that would have been, on par with some of the better soccer leagues in the rest of the world. But, you know, they screwed that up so bad that it took years to even, dig ourselves out of that hole.
Yeah, and I think what's happening now too. You see, there's a little bit of if I don't know if Foxy's on here or any of the English guys, but they're
Mhm.
like ranting against the Americanization of the Premier League and some of these leagues now. FIFA kind of sees it. I mean, look, the F1 sees it. There's 3 races here now, and people are like,
Mhm.
"Why are there 3 races in America?" Because we're going to pay crazy money to go to these races, and
Mhm.
in Miami, Las Vegas, and wherever the other one is,
Mhm.
Austin, hipster town. We're gonna pay crazy money, and the rights deals we're paying are crazy. These other, the Premier League, the deal here is monster. I mean, the Premier League teams, they come over here for the summer because they know, look, first of all, they'll be able to practice and
Mhm.
they won't have to worry about other stuff. But they're gonna get crazy money to come over here, and they're gonna sell tickets, and people are gonna go. They got a lot of fans here. They sell a lot of jerseys here. Like this
Mhm.
country is so big. There's 330 million people. Like people don't understand. I think when you're in, maybe in England or like U.S. is basically as big as the entire like Europe, the EU. Like it's the same thing. I mean, that's just it's just the United States of America. Each state is the same as the EU. It's basically the same size and the same kind of number of people, and like it's just a monster market. And
Right.
there's a reason they're having this FIFA World Cup here, obviously because of the World Cup. But there's a
Mhm.
reason to have it. Look, this is the Copa America is the South American Championship. They're
Mhm.
playing South American Championship in America, in the U.S. in North America
In North America.
for the second time in
Yeah.
8 years. Not just this isn't a one-off. This is the second time they did it in 2016.
Right.
This, so they're playing the South American Championship because they know people are going to come out. The stadiums are better. The
Mm-hmm.
facilities are better. They're going to get more for their tickets. They're going to make more money and all that stuff. So it's not, if this tournament was in Uruguay or they have it in Brazil a lot, Argentina. I think last time, or
Right.
I think Argentina hosted because of COVID or whatever. But it's not getting the same coverage. It's just not like this. It's getting coverage here because it's on Fox and FS1 at 6 and 9 o'clock or 6 and 8 o'clock, and everybody's watching it because the Euros run and everybody's watching it. Like if this was somewhere
Mm-hmm.
else, it wouldn't be the same. You just remember back to the last one; it wasn't the same kind of coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So it, this is the market everybody wants to be in. It's 100%. Like this is the market
Mm-hmm.
everybody wants to be in, and it's growing. That's the other thing. It's just constantly growing.
It's funny you brought up you know, uh, the situation with selling out of friendlies. It doesn't even have to, obviously it's not a game, during the season, but friendlies. Miami um, had 11,000 people at a Marlins game. On the same night, they had 75,000 people watching a game that didn't count for anything between Manchester. No, it wasn't Manchester United. It was uh, it was FC Barcelona and AC Milan, and they played at Hard Rock Stadium. The place was sold out, and they couldn't have, and they had 11,000 at the Marlins.
I mean, I would be interested to see what the baseball attendances are outside of New York, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, St. Louis. If you took maybe the top 5 markets out. Um, I'm gonna look that up right now.
Boston, Boston, Chicago.
I mean, you
Because
got
those are
the
destinations.
Dodgers, Yankees,
People.
Phillies, San Diego, Atlanta, and St. Louis are the top 6,
Mhm,
obviously.
right.
And they're pretty full, all over 36. But you got Oakland 7,000, Miami 12,000, Tampa 16,000, Chicago 16,000, White Sox, Kansas City Kansas City's good 18,000. Pittsburgh 20,000, Minnesota 21, Detroit 21, Cleveland 23. Cleveland could win the World Series. 23,000
Mhm.
people are averaging, which is a little bit, embarrassing, to be honest. Um, you know, there's basically, half the league, more than half the league is under 30,000, and
Mhm.
more than a third of the league is under 25,000, and you got basically Pittsburgh, Kansas City. Pittsburgh, by the way, with Skennis, who's been unbelievable. So on
Right.
those nights, I'm sure the numbers are skewed. White Sox,
Mhm.
Tampa, Miami, and Oakland, all at 20,000 or less. You're
Mhm.
not. You're not. It's just, I don't know. It's pretty.
Well, that's where. I mean, if you look at it, baseball is going to the more boutique um, ballparks. So your ballpark is now, in the low 30s, as opposed to the old stadiums like the Vet and Riverfront Stadium in Pittsburgh and you know um, Stadium in Cincinnati. They were all pretty much the same at 50,000, and they're basically dual usage stadiums.
I mean,
The ballparks are now much more you know in the 30s because the audience there's not 50,000 people
they
except
play
for
they
Los
play too
Angeles.
they
There were
play
all
too
Bucks
many they
games.
play too many games. They don't have, the NBA teams, they play 82 games. Obviously you can't play 82, but they play too many games. The season's too long. The weather sucks in April. It sucks in October. Half the teams are even there. It's I don't know. There's a million reasons why. And baseball, look, I as a person, as somebody who played baseball in college and coached and all this stuff, I always say like, I was a huge baseball fan, but the games are half these games are just like not unwatchable. I mean, it's just not. You can watch two of these games in the same time as the Yankees Red Sox game. I'm just not. I know they've sped it up a little bit, but it's just. Yeah, but like to be honest,
But
like
we actually had a walk off pitch clock violation
yeah, that's ridiculous. When was that?
the other day. It was the other day. What happened was the Nationals were playing the Colorado Rockies, and they had a guy on third base. The game was tied at 7. It was the ninth inning. The pitcher forgot that whenever there's a guy on base, you're down to 18 seconds rather than 20 seconds. And so he was looking for the catcher to give him the count. He was getting ready to get into his windup. If you're in your windup and you release it, then it's fine. But he hadn't got there yet, and the umpire called a pitch clock violation, which is the same as a balk. And in came the run from third base, and the Rockies win the game.
Yeah, I'd be fuming about that. I mean, it's just crazy. I know they're trying to do this stuff to speed the game up, but like, it's um like you see soccer, they don't really have to speed the game up. The World Cup was a little ridiculous with all the extra time added and stuff like that. I think they've kind of got away from that a little bit now, which is good because you don't need 14 extra minutes added. But yeah, it's I don't know. I know the baseball numbers are struggling compared to soccer and the especially in America. But it pales obviously in comparison in other countries. No one's
Mm-hmm.
watching baseball in England and um,
Right.
some of the other countries in Central and South America maybe, but it's tough.
And then of course in Japan and Korea.
Yep.
So there's that. All right, let's take a real quick look at what's going on tonight and tomorrow. Um, what are your thoughts on the game? There's a doubleheader tonight, and then there's much to see tomorrow.
What's that? The Copa America?
Well, Copa America tonight, and then Euro and Copa America tomorrow.
Yeah, I think today is today's the last day of the group stage here for the Euros.
Right.
So at 3, Czechia plays Turkey. It's the Czech Republic. I don't know why they call it Czechia now. I think Turkey. Turkey's one of those dark horse teams. They're going to go on to that other side of the bracket there and maybe be a tough out for some of these teams. Portugal should beat Georgia. Ecuador plays Jamaica and Venezuela plays Mexico. Ecuador and Mexico should win. I know Venezuela picked up a big win the other day and it went a man down. They were losing and then went a man down. USA plays tomorrow against Panama. Really, US should win that game. Uruguay plays Bolivia. That should be 3-4-0 Uruguay. And then, Friday's Brazil, Paraguay, Colombia, Costa Rica, and then Saturday the round of 16 starts for the Euros. Right now, Switzerland will play Italy at 12. Germany plays Denmark at 3. In the Sunday games, England will play at 12 against most likely the Netherlands. Spain will play one of the other third place teams. And then on Monday, France and Portugal play at 12 and 3. And Austria is going to play the last game. But look, it's wide open. I think both these tournaments are wide open. I think I talked to, I like Uruguay a little bit in that South American tournament. If Darwin Nunez wasn't terrible or just was half decent, I mean, he just misses so many chances. If he scored a couple of these chances instead of missing them all the time, I think Uruguay wins the tournament. They could win it anyway. But, the Euros, I don't even know at this point. It could be with all those teams on that side. I think you're going to be guessing at that. I still think France wins. They've looked terrible. Germany's good, Spain is good, Portugal's good. Any of those teams could win. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming up.
Well, we've got Mbappe. A chance to see what Mbappe's like when he plays with mask on.
Yeah, he scored yesterday. I thought they're got a little unlucky with that call, but they didn't play very well. England was terrible. They're too defensive. They're never winning anything with that coach. I know they'll probably get to the final, but they just he's just so it's so ridiculous how defensive they play. I mean, they should be going at these games and just attacking, and they just don't with all their talent. He's like it's almost like he's scared to give up a goal. He's terrible, terrible coach. Thank God Manchester United didn't sign him. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Even today's games. These games. I think Mexico. People think Mexico is the Mexico of 5, 6, 8 years ago. They're not. They're not very good. USA is clearly the best team in CONCACAF, but that's not saying much. So, but look, none of these South American teams are that good either. Brazil hasn't. They don't have a 9. So it's wide open. I think both of these things are wide open, which is all you kind of want from these tournaments.
So the good part is that parity is parity is making for an interesting couple of tournaments.
That's right. Yeah, yep. There's a lot of parity, and it's not like club, where you can go out and sign a 9 if you need one. You get what you're given. That's
A little tough to do that now. Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, look, you talk about club, and look, we're only 3 weeks away from matches again. The Community Shield is 6 weeks away. Real Madrid just won the Champions League, and they're going to sign Mbappe, might be the best player in the world. They're going to sign Lenny Euro, the best 18-year-old defender in the world. Endrick is coming in, who's the best U20 player probably in the world. Brazil can't do that. USA can't do that. So Real Madrid is getting better. God hopes. God help Manchester United. Maybe they'll sign some players. Foxy's team, Newcastle. Might be facing a points deduction and stuff like this. But yeah, look, it's a good time of year. I think ahead of the Premier League. I think I'm a big club guy.
Okay. Well, there you go. That'll be fun. All right, man. We will see you tomorrow. Hope everybody has a good day and enjoy the soccer tonight and tomorrow. We'll be back, everybody, about the same time tomorrow. Take care, everybody. For Sean, I'm Jim. Be well. Bye-bye.